All right, thank you everybody for your patience as we worked out some of the technical difficulties, but I think we're all on track and I think we're ready to begin. If I may, before we do so, may I introduce our new judge to the panel. He's probably not a stranger to many of you, but he will be with us now to complete our roster, and that is Judge Fishburne. He is presently here today, and then also Mr. Nemo is with us. Of course, you know him. If we may, we'll just go ahead and get started. Okay. Well, we do have one more introduction, so we'll go ahead and do that as well.
Hi, this is Sherelle Hooper speaking. I am the council's attorney, and I want to introduce our new disciplinary counsel. We have Corey Wright, who recently joined us. She will be the new disciplinary counsel for this program. Corey, do you want to tell us a little bit about yourself?
Sure. My name is Corey Wright. I'm a graduate of Belmont Law School from 2016, and I just finished up a clerkship with a federal judge in Bowling Green, Kentucky. I just started with the Department of Commerce and Insurance about a month and a half ago. I also have a cold today, so I apologize if I sound a little stuffy. It's very nice to meet you all.
Thank you so much.
Why do we have a disciplinary council?
We do occasionally get one of those.
We've never had that before.
Well, we have one today, actually. Well, we've actually, legal's restructured, and it's been the case for a while. Pamela Spicer was the disciplinary counsel primarily, and Corey Wright is now the new disciplinary counsel, but legal has restructured so that cases are handled by disciplinary counsel and other matters are handled by program counsel.
Okay.
Thank you, Cheryl. If we may, since in the absence of Judge Kraft, since his position has now been filled by Judge Fishburne, Judge Lauterbach, if I'm asked if you could serve as the interim chair until we have election of officers, I'd appreciate that. And I will just, if it's okay with you, just jump on in with the call to order and the notice of meeting.
Okay. So that was, who was that? Was that Glenn?
Yes, sir.
Okay, let me see if I can get I'm having trouble with my computer. Make sure I get the agenda back up here.
Okay.
So let's have, I guess the first thing is to call the roll.
Yes, sir. Judge Mark Fishburne. Here. Judge Klein Lauterbach.
Present.
Judge John Hudson. Judge Hugh Harvey.
Here.
Linda Byford. Stancil Ford.
Here.
And David Nemo.
Present.
Chairman, we have quorum.
Okay, I'm having trouble getting my agenda up here. What's the next item on the agenda?
The notice of meeting, I'll go ahead and read that.
Read that if you would.
Yes, sir. The notice of November 3rd, 2017 meeting of Private Probation Service Council was posted to the Private Probation Service Council website on October 24th, 2017. As to the statement of necessity, since as you know we're teleconferencing today, we'll have to end every vote with a roll call vote. And we'll also have to end the statement of necessity, and it reads as follows. According to TCA 844-108B2, if a physical quorum is not present at the location of a meeting of a governing body, the governing body must file such determination of necessity, including the recitation of the facts and circumstances on which it was based, with the Office of Secretary of State no later than 2 working days after the meeting. Furthermore, TCA 844-108A3 defines necessity as matters to be considered by the governing body at the meeting require timely action by the body. That physical presence by a quorum of the members is not practical within the period of time requiring action, and that participation by a quorum of the members by electronic or other means of communication is necessary. This is a regular scheduled meeting for the Private Probation Services Council, and the purpose of today's meeting, with some members attending by teleconference, is to discuss the agenda as noticed on the website earlier.
We need a motion to approve that.
So moved, Mr. Chairman. Stancil forward.
We won't necessarily, that won't be an action item, but the agenda, that one will be, and that's where we're going next.
So we don't need a motion for that statement of necessity. Okay. The next item on the agenda would be approving the agenda. Is there a motion to approve that?
So moved, Mr. Chairman. Stancil forward.
Second. Hugh Harvey, second.
Okay.
We'll vote on that by roll call since we're on the telephone. So, Mr. Kopchik, if you'll call the roll.
Yes, sir. Judge Mark Fishburne.
No.
Judge Klein Lauterbach.
Aye.
Judge Hugh Harvey.
Aye.
Stancil Ford.
Aye.
David Nemo.
Aye.
that sounds like a unanimous approval, so
It is.
it's approved, and we'll move on to the next item, which is the minutes from the last meeting, which is in February. Has everyone had a chance to look at those? Should have been furnished previously. Is there a motion to, any comment on the minutes or anything that needs to be addressed mistake-wise? If not, is there a motion to approve the minutes?
Since I wasn't there, I don't think I should.
So moved, Mr. Chairman. Stand support.
Is there a second?
Second, David Nimmo.
Call the roll.
Judge Fishburne,
I abstain, I wasn't here.
Judge Klein Lauterbach,
I have to abstain because I was not present.
Judge Hugh Harvey,
Abstain.
Stancil Ford,
Aye.
David Nimmo. Is so approved. Thank you.
I guess that's the best we can do under the circumstances.
Sir,
So let me ask you a question. When did Judge Kraft resign?
I don't have the information in front of me, but it was, and Judge Fishburne, you have to help me out a little bit. It was a couple months ago, something to that effect.
Yeah, I think he contacted me first part of September.
There you go, first part of September.
Okay. Sounds like a good plan to me. Next item is the director's report. If we can hear that from the director.
Sure. We only have, I do have 2 action items on here. I'll go through the non-action item first, and then we'll follow up with the ones that would require a roll call vote.
Okay.
All right. So the first thing we'll do is we'll just jump into the budget on your iPads, or if you're at home right now and you're looking at your documents, that would be the 3 budget documents. I'm going to just go ahead and read it into the record first, and then kind of go down and delineate what some of those things mean based on the document you have in front of you. The first being September. Let's just look at September, then we'll look at this year, and then we'll address some of what feeds into that. The first one is we had total revenue in September was $109. Total expenditures were $3,315 for September. And then for the year so far, thus far, is total revenues of $16,632. And then we also have expenses of $11,000 with a net surplus of $5,000, $5,182. Now, if you look at that trending below there, you'll notice that last month, well, we had quite a bit of a surplus, but then the months on each side of that, we had quite a bit of a deficit. Where that comes is if you look at the years prior, if you notice every quarter, we have quite a bit of a surplus in revenue, and that typically offsets the balance and keeps us in the black, moving in the way forward. What that is primarily it's the if I could pull up my notes, our registrants, they will typically we only have a handful of those, and it's a $100 fee typically, so we don't get a lot of revenue in that regard. But where we get the revenue is the probationers, where they pay the 75 cents per probationer, and they report that every single quarter. So that's where you're getting that bump in surplus. Now for the items on that particular particular delineation, that trending analysis chart, let me just go down the list there and explain what some of that is. As a refresher, some of you have already heard this, but for the benefits of all of our members, but also as a refresher, we'll just go through that. Licensing revenue, of course, is what we bring in from renewals, the registrants, the probationer fee that comes in for the quarterly provider fees, which you see that bump every single month or every quarter. Case revenue is what we bring in for any civil penalties that were assessed. The state reg fee, well, you see it's in the revenue column, but yet it's a reduction in revenue is how that's listed, primarily because we pay $5 per license and renewals to finance and administration, and it's basically a workaround. It's not a true expense, it's just a reduction in revenue because it's an internal workaround. It's not, like your typical expenses you'll see delineated here. So that's just their way of, identifying that and tracking that, where we're putting out renewals and licensing. Edison expenditures, we're going to cover some of that here on the next slide, but that can range from a whole host of things. If you can move to the to the quarterly total expenditures, you'll see some of that. Some of those payroll expenditures up there, like, salaries, longevity, overtime, employee benefits, things of that nature. But it also includes other expenditures like travel, printing. You also have the 725 code that's on the quarterly, but also on the end of the fiscal year statement. Itemized statement of expenditures. At the very bottom, that 725 code, the state professional services, that's rentals, that's phones, fax lines, things of that nature. So that's why you see the significant bump and increase there as well. If you want to see our overall health, administrative costbacks, let's hit that as well while we're here. Administrative costbacks include the private probation share of the liquidation of all administrative costbacks from the programs. The share is determined by licensing count, number of complaints, and budget plan, which accounts for 0.38% for the private probation service council versus 16% for Cosmo and Barber, which resulted in a $668 notation administrative costbacks in July. Like if you look at July, you'll see that $668 that we have there was a result of that budget. Now, just to kind of put it in perspective, in July, out of 175,000 total expenses, private probation covered $668 of that. So, one of the things, like, for example, Cosmo Barber, I use that as an example for the comparative analysis. They have 68,000 licensees, a lot more complaints, so they're paying 16% of the budget. They're having to float that. Whereas we don't even get past the 0.5% of that budget. And that would make, as you can see, would make sense. And at the very last one, you'll see the costbacks for fiscal year end of 2017. That all landed at 0.18. So we didn't even get to 0.38 on that one like we did in July. For the end of the year, it was 0.18. And as you can see there, the budget spending plan, the number of complaints, 3, and number of licensees, 32. So which resulted in a year total of last year of $5,721.35. As far as total expenditures for the end of the fiscal year, if you want to just look at the fiscal year expenditures chart, if we look at, it's basically a snapshot of the quarterly chart that we just reviewed as well. But if you go down, you'll see total expenditures. Payroll was $21,595. Look to the far right of the line, and each dotted line will have the expenditures. You got payroll expenditures was $21,000, total other expenditures $9,000, which gave us a total year-end expenditures of $31,250. But then we also had other expenditures, which is what I just described, those costbacks, administrative, legal, field enforcement, those line items that you see in the trimming report as well. That all feeds in right there, in addition to what's Edison reports. Our net revenue or total expenditures was $46,000. And then our net revenue was $80,000, which left us at a fiscal year balance last year of $34,000, and that combined with the prior year fiscal year reserve of $654,000 left us with a total reserve now of $689,520. So you can see we're in good financial shape. And that's why we do the trimming as well, so we can pinpoint if there's any problems on the way. We don't want to wait till the end of the year or even quarter. If we can, by each month, track that and see if there's any blips on the radar that we need to address. Did anyone have any questions in regard to all that? I know it's a lot to kind of digest at once, but I'd be happy to answer any questions that you may have. Okay. Well, that was the budget. I don't discern that we have anything. Of course, if you think of something along the way, I don't mind going back and revisiting some of that. But it looks like we're in pretty good shape thus far, and we don't see anything out of the ordinary in the trimming, to cause alarm, according to what we have listed here. So we'll just keep on tracking. The next thing I'd like to address is just the meeting minutes. And we will have to take a roll call vote on this as well. It's already posted on the website. Of course, that's subject to change. We were meeting it towards the end of the year, so kind of want to give everyone a chance to look at it. But it won't be effective until we vote on it. But the dates as listed, and I can, of course, send this to everybody as well, so you have a hard copy, so you can, address, move your schedule around as necessary or do whatever you need to do in that regard. But it's February 2nd, May 4th, August 3rd, and November 2nd with that. And we basically just tried to mirror what we did this year. If you notice, those dates are similar to what we did this past year.
Okay. Is there a motion to approve the meeting date schedule for next year?
So moved.
That was Judge Fishburne with the original motion.
Hugh Harvey, second.
Any discussion? If not, call the roll.
All right. Judge Fishburne?
Aye.
Judge Lauterbach?
Aye.
Judge Harvey?
Aye.
Stansel Ford?
Aye.
And David Nemo?
Aye.
It's so approved. And then one more matter that I'd like to address as well is the basically administrative complaints. We're going through all of our programs and addressing anonymous complaints. In the past, those were never opened. Those are obviously not referred. And typically, now if we have anonymous complaint with some media information that's actionable, we'll move on that. But if it's anonymous complaint where there's no way that we can circle back with the individual, then at that point we just haven't typically tracked those. Well, we want to track them. So what we're going to do is we're going to open them, and then if the Services Council was to so give the administration the authority just to close them if there's nothing actionable. So we're just not, we don't have the authority to do that without the council. So far we've done that in Cosmo and Barber Collection Service Board. They've granted that, and then we're moving to the other commission boards to grant that as well. Obviously, if there's something that's actionable, if they give us any information to follow on at all, then we'll look into that, and if it's something actionable, it gets referred to legal, and you'll still get all of that information. But if it's something that we would normally not even open, we're going to go and open and close it so we can track basically the trending of that. So if that is so allowed, then we'll just need that in the form of a motion.
Is there a motion to allow the director's office to open and close files on anonymous complaints?
Fishburne, so moved.
Stansel Ford, second.
Call the roll.
Judge Fishburne?
Aye.
Judge Lauterbach?
Aye.
Judge Harvey?
Aye.
Stansel Ford?
Aye.
David Nemo? Looks like we're approved on that front, which moves us to the legal report.
Good morning, this is Sherelle Hooper speaking again. Since our last meeting on February 3rd, 2017, there was only one bill relevant to this council that was filed for introduction. That was filed in early February, and it was House Bill 0450, and it was filed for introduction on February 8th, 2017. It passed on second consideration in the Senate, and however, when it made it over to the House, it was taken off notice. This bill, as introduced, would have permitted courts sentencing probation persons convicted of Class C, D, and E felonies rather than just Class E to contract with private probation companies to provide probation services, and would have established minimum qualifications for the private probation companies in order to contract with the courts. And so that's what the bill would have done, but it ended up not becoming the law at this particular session, so that is the legislative update. Thanks.
Does that mean it's bumped to this next session? Or did it die?
It looks like it could possibly be reintroduced, but by being taken off the calendar, it just didn't move forward this past session.
It'll have to be reintroduced as a new bill, unless things have changed since I've been down there. This is Stansel Ford. If they took it off notice, it'll have to be reintroduced.
Okay, you can go ahead with your report.
That completes the legislative update. That was the only bill that was relevant to this council, so thank you.
Thank you. So you have your legal report now.
Hi, this is Corey Wright again with the legal report. We only have one complaint today. That's number 2017-054621. This is a consumer complaint alleging that a defendant subject to probation with this respondent was treated unfairly and subjected to a probation violation when she did nothing wrong and was in compliance. The respondent provided documentation disputing the claims of the complainant and provided proof of noncompliance with the terms of the probation which led to the probation violation. Respondent indicates that complainant missed multiple scheduled appointments with her probation officer, failed a drug test for marijuana, and falsified her employment status. Defendant admitted to these violations of probation in court. The recommendation for this complaint is closure.
Is there a motion to accept the recommendation?
It's you, Harvey, so move.
Is there a second?
Second, David Nemo.
Any discussion? If not, you can call the roll.
Judge Fishburne?
Aye.
Judge Lauterbach?
Aye.
Judge Harvey?
Aye.
Stansel Ford?
Aye.
And David Nemo.
Aye.
All right, it's so accepted. One item before we get to new business, if it's okay, Chair, I'd like to just address the election of officers. Every year by statute, we have to do that, and we do have a vacancy. Judge Lauterbach, thank you for stepping in as interim chair until we address that and resolve it. But next meeting, which I believe it was in February, if everyone could just kind of come prepared with a noting that we'll have to do an election of officers and kind of keep that in mind, that would be great. That was all I had to interject. Unless anyone else had new business, we can move on from there.
Okay, thank you. So is there any new business that you're taking up?
We don't have anything from support services staff unless anyone else had something that they'd like to introduce.
Anything else we need to, anybody have anything to talk about or bring up? Or
If I could interject for just a quick second, and good morning, this is Roxana Gamusia, the Executive Director for the program. You all have been wonderful to be available for today. We're going to look into the chair, if I'm recalling right, but you'll forgive me because we have a lot of programs. I have a feeling that the chair for this board by statute would be Judge Fishburne, so we will just confirm that with Sherelle and look into it. I think that's by statute how the program works, that it has to be the circuit court judge. So when Judge Kraft left, I think that's an automatic and that we don't have to vote. We'll know for sure, and that'll be then handled that way if that's the case. So I just want to make sure that
is February the regular? We usually elect them in September. So we had our elections in September, August, or
right. It's our next meeting, but I think by statute this is kind of set to work that way. So we would just reiterate it, and everybody would agree. But I think it's out there.
That's perfectly all right. But I don't know that we ever knew that before.
Okay.
We've always had an election.
Okay.
And I'll say I did.
Okay.
I did luckily have the statute in front of me, and it is an election of the member amongst the members of the chair, vice chair, and other officers. And so I'm not sure how many.
Just two. Historically, I'm sorry. Historically, we just had two: the chair and the vice chair.
And so I think the election would be for the chair and the vice chair in February.
But if it has to be a circuit judge, then there's no election to do, or do we have to confirm that?
We don't. I will review the statutes more closely. I don't see that requirement right now, but I will review more closely to determine if that's the case.
Either way, we'll come prepared to discuss that. Yeah.
Yeah, I was just
Not to dump on you there, Judge Fishburne, but it sounds like a good plan to me. So.
I won't be disappointed if that's not.
All right, is there anything else that requires any further discussion?
If not, our next meeting is, what was that day we just voted on, February 4?
I'm pulling it up right now. Let me take a look. And I'm going to send you each, well, you probably have a hard copy, but it's February 2nd.
February, okay. If there's not any other new business, is there a motion to adjourn?
So move, Mr. Chairman. Stand so forward.
Is everybody in agreement with that? We can just, you want to call the roll, or does everybody say aye? So, aye. The meeting will be adjourned. Thank you.
Have a good weekend.
Thank
Thank you.
Thank you.
Welcome, Judge Fishburne.